It is December 28th, and I promised you guys a December garden tour, so here we are. I was going to originally do the tour the day after Christmas on the 26th. It didn't work out because I was very tired. And then for the last 2 days, it's been kind of overcast. So today is nice and bright and sunny. It's 55 degrees, which is like early spring weather. So the garden is loving it. I've done a few things in the garden this week, and after I make this video, I have some lettuce transplants to get into the ground. So if you have a TikTok and would like to see like different weekly short clips of me in the garden, then feel free to follow me on TikTok. My TikTok handle is Squire Studio as well, so you can find me there. But without further ado, let's get into our December garden tour. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to put like a montage of my full garden views from each month that I've done our garden tour. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to see the results, and I can't wait for you guys to see them as well. So let's go ahead and take a full view of the garden. So here is what the garden is looking like. Please pardon the greenhouse plastic. I thought about moving it for the video, but then changed my mind because this is how the garden is looking, you know. It's really real. So that's what the garden is looking like, greenhouse plastic and all. So it's there. Hopefully it doesn't encumber your view too much, but we do keep a couple of the beds, well, 4 of the beds under plastic in the evening, just because it helps keep the frost off the crops that we have there, and they're crops that we want to continue growing right now and not necessarily go dormant. So here's the full view. It's looking far more green and lush than I would imagine it to look in December. But I'm pleasantly surprised, and I've still been enjoying the garden even in these chillier months. Let's take a closer look at things. We'll start over here by the raised beds and trellises. Still have our 2 Shasta daisy plants. These are perennials. I'm also pleasantly surprised how green they stayed as it's cooled down, but I think these are a cooler weather loving flower. I'll have to double check that, but this was their first full year. So this plant gave me about 4 flowers, and this one has given me 0 in this first year. I have several more started inside. I'm not sure where I will plant them when the time comes, but I've learned exactly how long they take, so I should have plenty of time to figure out where I want to get them planted. This past week, I transplanted some ranunculus here that I originally pre-sprouted indoors. I'm gonna mulch this up later this week, and I haven't been covering this bed with any tarps or plastic, and they've been doing great. We'll get some frost temperatures this coming week, so I'm really hoping the mulch will be sufficient enough to keep them doing well. I think it'll get down to the 20s overnight. And then I have a sedum here that I transplanted maybe like a month or so ago. There's some dead loofah there, and then we'll take a look over at this raised bed across from it. So we've been working on this area little by little. Almost tripped. Over here we want to just line this whole retaining wall with rocks, and then we'll come through with T-posts and more cattle panel and create a fence here because there's a little drop off. We just want to fence it in for safety, and then I'll probably grow something up those cattle panels. Down there I have some seedlings and a huge weed. I have some seedlings hardening off. All those lettuces are going to get transplanted when this video is done, and then I can see some stuff over there starting to faint, so I need to get that moved back in. I think that's bok choy and tatsoi. I think it's, and there's some tomatoes over there as well. And those are all the Shasta daisies. But in this bed, this is some mint that has died back. I hope it comes back in the spring. From what I've been told, it should come back fairly easily. Have some sweet peas here that need to be weeded, and they'll probably start trellising here in the next couple of weeks. And then I have one lowly carnation plant here that survived my neglect from whenever I seed started carnations. But this is one here. I had a second one. Yeah, it hasn't really done much of anything, but it's still holding on. And then you can see there's several weeds. It's kind of dry here, but a few inches down is damp, so I didn't water today, and we plan on watering tomorrow. But I'll probably come through and just re-mulch this a little bit more thickly to retain water. Let's go over here and take a look at that raised bed. It's a little bit windy this afternoon, so pardon if you can hear any of the wind blowing by, but I transplanted some more sedum over here a month or so ago. These I got from, I think, Lowe's Home Improvement. Over here transplanted, I think these are anemone, a few anemone right here. And then these are more of the sweet peas. I think this variety is called Sweet Dreams. I believe the seeds might be from Lowe's. But they are doing really well in this raised bed, and I started trellising them up this past week. So these are really starting to take off, which I didn't think they would take off until maybe like February. But probably by then they'll really put on some growth. But I'm still pleasantly surprised with how much they've grown here in December. Starting to go up the trellis. I did pinch these before I planted them, and they're very bushy. Very bushy. So I'm really hoping they'll be extremely prolific come springtime, and I do plan on saving my own seeds from whatever flowers I don't end up cutting to sell at market. This over there is a raised bed that we just put in within the last week, and I'll show you guys what is over there. This is my ranunculus bed. We just built it about a week or so ago, and I transplanted some ranunculus here that I had pre-sprouted indoors. In this bed, which is probably like a foot tall maybe, we're practicing something known as the hugelkultur method. And so basically you fill the bottom of the bed with sticks, leaves, grass clippings, unbroken down compost, and as all of that stuff is decomposing, it helps to keep the bed warm from the heat that's emitted by the decomposing matter. And then it also helps to provide nutrients for the soil because of the organic matter that's breaking down. So far it's looking really good. We have quite a bit of unbroken down compost because we hadn't really been consistently turning our compost, nor have we been keeping water on it. So it's been staying really dry, which makes it a lot more difficult for it to break down. We also had a high level of carbon materials. In the ratio of carbon to nitrogen materials, we had a high level of carbon materials, so that was also slowing its breakdown as well. So, because it was getting out of hand, we decided to just throw a bunch of it in the bottom of this raised bed, and so far so good. We do cover this at night, although I do think it probably doesn't need it because the ranunculus have shown to be pretty cold hardy, pretty cold tolerant. But I've still been covering it for good measure. Right now, some of them are kind of flopped over. I think the top layer of the soil is kind of dry. About an inch down, there's still some moisture, but these are still pretty shallow rooted because they were just pre-sprouted, so the roots aren't very deep. So we're going to turn the sprinkler on after this video is complete. But I think I have about 43 or 45 ranunculus plants in here. They are spaced about 10 inches apart in staggered rows, and I have 5 rows in this bed. So I'm super excited to grow these. I need to do a little bit more research to see if I need to add some trellis netting to help keep the stem straight, to keep the plants from flopping and snapping. But these should be one of the earlier spring flowers. which I'm super excited about because last year the only spring flower I had was tulips, and they did pretty well, although they had short stems. But now that I'm starting to get into the swing of things and being able to purchase a few more different types of bulbs, corms, and seeds, I'm excited to have more variety of flowers in the spring. So this is probably one of my more anticipated beds of the season, and I can't wait to keep you guys updated on how this grows. I do plan on saving the corms at the end of their growing season. So if I can, I'll make a video of me digging them up and showing you guys how I saved them. And then I do have those 2 raised beds that are over here close to the retaining wall. They're still empty. They've been empty for months. They have, well, they're not empty. They have some dying plants in them. So I probably won't end up getting those planted for another few months. But once I do, you guys know I'll put it in a garden tour. We're going to go take a look at the 12-foot bed that's kind of diagonal to this one. So this is a 12-foot bed. It's located, you can see my tripod, it's located, you know, just catty corner from the ranunculus bed. It's in between 2, I think these are ash trees. And then our goal this coming season is to add another 12-foot bed right across here, about 3 feet away from the one that's here. I had originally planted straw flowers in this bed, but they have proven to not be as cold tolerant as I thought they would be in a zone 8, or they didn't have a significant enough root system to withstand the cooler night temperatures. So, but these little tatsoi are doing okay. These are known to be frost hardy, but I think maybe because they're so small, they're struggling a little bit. And then I think there might be some critters nibbling on them in the evening. You can see like this one here has been nibbled down, and then a little nibble, and then there's a little, I think this is a little bit of sunburn, and a little bit of frost damage. So I'm just, even the ones that are a little bit damaged, I'm leaving them in the ground because they should grow back. If they don't, I do have several more transplants, and I do plan on starting more seeds for these. This is a raised bed. You guys know this raised bed. This is where my best roselle grew. I left only 1 roselle plant in the raised bed just because they ended up taking up more space than I anticipated. So it was just too dense across here, and this pathway was virtually unusable because of the way the roselle kind of sprawled over. So here I have planted daffodils. This little area needs to get weeded. And then here I have tulips and daffodils and chamomile across there. I'm leaving that roselle to see if it'll come back in the spring. I really hope so. That was my best producer of the bunch and grew the tallest. So I also saved seeds from that as well. I'll just point to what's back here. That was some lavender that I put in, I want to say like January or February. It's still alive. It hasn't flowered, but it's hanging on. That area desperately needs to be weeded. But over here I also have a pomegranate tree, a red currant bush. I think they're red currants. I haven't gotten currants from it yet, but I should get them this coming year. This was its 2nd year in the ground, I think. So it's grown quite a bit. And at the end of the current season, I'll probably be taking a couple cuttings from this. And then there's another pomegranate tree right there. My husband has been working on lining this back wall with some of the stone from our front yard. I originally had this lined with wood chips, but we couldn't get our hands on enough wood chips to do this whole area. And a lot of pests, unfortunately, were nesting back there, so we decided to try using stone instead. Now this will create a very warm microclimate back here, so I'm probably just going to end up planting Tithonia and sunflowers here because I think they'll be able to handle the heat radiating from the wall. So this bed is relatively empty. There's just some basil plants that are dead and gone to seed, I plan on saving that seed at some point, but for now, I'm just leaving it in the ground so that there's roots. This area is empty and exposed, and I'm not sure. I want to put something there soon, but I'm not sure what I'll put. So we're gonna take a look at the other 3 of these 10-foot beds. So in this first one here on this side, I planted some old tulip bulbs that I had, just to see if they would come back this coming year. I harvested tulips last year and pulled the whole bulb, not leaving any foliage. So I'm not sure if the tulips will actually come back, but I decided to just bury them just in case. And if not, then that's just extra organic matter for the soil. In this area, all the way down to that more heavily mulched part, is garlic, and several of these have sprouted and are growing quite nicely. You can see, I want to say I planted about 50 cloves in here, and they're really at all different stages. Like some of them are like this high, you can see, and then some of them are just barely starting to come up. And I'm having to be really careful because there's several weeds in here that actually kind of look like garlic sprouts. So I accidentally pulled one of the garlic cloves out the other day, which was sad, but I know there's plenty more in here. There's also more dead basil across here. This was cinnamon basil, and in this bed my husband planted some red onions. So this is our first year to try to grow onions. I'm not seeing any sprouts yet, but yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on whether or not they sprout for us. So I said that and I was about to walk away, but I think this is an onion sprout. So there you have it. We'll have at least one red onion. So this is the bed right across from the onion and garlic bed. We have some butter crunch lettuce, and the ones that I'm going to transplant today I'm going to put here at the edge of the bed, and then move this hoop all the way to the edge of the bed so it can be covered. But these are doing great. Well, most of them. That one is met its maker. But over here on this end of the bed I have anemones. Okay, so these anemones have not only proven to be cold hardy, but they haven't exactly gone dormant since I put them in the ground, which I expected these to go dormant, it being so cool at night. But they're still growing and even putting off new shoots here in the ground, with the nights getting down to the 30s and 40s. So we'll see how they fare with the nights going down to the 20s next week. But yeah, I re-mulched these this past week. With grass clippings and shredded paper, and they're doing well. The mulch is working really well, keeping the soil nice and damp, but not too wet. And then there's more anemones right over here, which are also doing well, growing very nicely. And then here in between the 2 sets of anemones, I threw in some root crops that don't take up a whole lot of space. These are French breakfast radishes, and because it's so chilly, they are growing very slowly, but it's good to have them in the soil. It helps keep it from getting compacted. And then I seeded some carrots a while ago and didn't think any germinated, but to my surprise, I do have like 3 or 4 carrots that germinated, and the foliage is really pretty. So you can see there's no significant root down there, but these will stay in until the greens are significantly larger. So, but there's one there. There's a little carrot here, a little carrot here. Yeah, this is right here. It's feeling kind of dry and compact, so we'll see how those do. And then I think I have one more carrot here next to some Swiss chard seeds that I threw in the ground. So there's like 3 Swiss chard here. I'm just gonna leave these, and I'm gonna leave the carrot as well and see what they do. But yeah, you can see this area right here is A little bit dry on top, but I might put a lettuce right here and see how it does. But I'm definitely gonna put the lettuce across here. Okay, let's go take a look at that bed. Here are some more in-ground ranunculus. When I put these in here, these actually died back pretty significantly. I think just from the shock, I didn't really harden them off that much before putting them in. And the foliage that was here pretty much died off, but they've since started to grow new foliage. All through here, my 9-year-old came and seeded some radishes. We've been letting him sell them at the farmer's market, and he gets $2 a bundle. Here at the front, we have some romaine lettuce, red and green. These I actually really could have kept inside much longer than I did, but I did not have the energy to up pot them, so instead I just brought them out to transplant while they were still very small. So they're growing very slowly, but they'll take off in the spring, I'm sure. Okay, so these are all my 10-foot flower beds, and we're gonna go over to the other side and take a look at the market, what I call the market beds. So these are what I call my market beds, and the only reason why I call them that is because this is where I grew a majority of my produce last year, and I grew a majority of the flowers over here. So I call these my flower beds, and these my market beds. These were originally about 30 inches wide, and these were originally about 36 inches wide. The measurements have adjusted a little bit over time, just with soil moving outside of the bed and stuff, but they're still roughly about the same dimension, about 6 feet long, 30 inches wide. So in this back bed, I have daffodils planted that you can't see them yet. But when I planted the daffodils, I disturbed a lot of what was in here already, so it hasn't made it through the winter. There was bok choy, radishes, and snapdragons, and you can see kind of like the remnants, but all that's in there right now actually growing is daffodil bulbs, and I do plan on planting something on top of it. I'm not sure what, maybe bush beans, since they're pretty shallow rooted, and they'll probably still be able to grow amongst the daffodils. This bed, let me get a different angle where my shadow's not in the frame, but this bed I weeded this past week and remulched it. I put ranunculus here on the edge, so you can see some of them had more foliage on them than others. So you can see this one has a little bit more foliage, and there's one here, but it's literally just a sprout. So it's a tiny little sprout, and then this one is farther along with more foliage. In this bed, there's also chamomile. I'm really excited to grow this. It smells really nice, even just its leaves. I think that's what I'm smelling. But there's chamomile over here. And then across the front of this bed, I have a few more ranunculus I can plant, and so I'm gonna put them here. I think they'll probably stay like a little bit lower to the ground, and then the chamomile will probably come up significantly higher. Like I said, this is my first year for chamomile. I actually started these seeds a while ago, so they have been growing for a while. And then here, right across from it, are a couple snapdragons. I put more daffodils over here as well. There was more snapdragons over here, but once I put the daffodils in, I disturbed the soil too much, and so that kind of killed off some of the snapdragons. But that's okay, because I have several more started inside. I have these snapdragons here on my flower path. Here on the other side of the trellis, you can see the sweet peas a little bit better, and then I have an oak leaf lettuce, or red oak leaf lettuce here across the front, which hasn't really grown very much over the last couple of weeks because of the cool night temperatures. And then we have broccoli. I tried to grow broccoli last year, but I never got broccoli crowns, so I'm excited to actually have some broccoli crowns, as small as they are. You can see. The broccoli seed that I planted was actually for microgreens, so I don't think it's necessarily bred to give off like amazingly large broccoli crowns, and it might be multiple varieties in here, I don't know. But you can see there's also some florets here on the side. So as you can see, more snapdragons. My goal is to succession plant snapdragons all year long. I know now that I can grow them all year, the rocket variety at least. So that is my goal, and they have quickly become one of my favorite flowers. And then there's sweet peas along the bottom of this trellis and more snapdragons on the other side. We can take a look at the other side. The variety of snapdragons that I'm growing is a mix, and it's literally a 25-cent mix packet from the Dollar Tree, and they have honestly grown great for me. They're not super fast growers, but I've been loving all the colors in every packet that I've sown, and yeah, I haven't had any issues really, and any issues I've had have been user error. So I'm gonna keep getting the 25-cent packets because it's such a great deal. You can see this sweet pea I tried trellising up the other day. This one's doing the best of the bunch, and then we have some here, and I don't know if I'm not, I think I'm not watering these enough because they're kind of dry and crispy even here in December when it hasn't gotten above 60, but I guess these need more water than I originally thought. And then this one here is losing its battle, but there's a tiny little sprout right there. So yeah, definitely need to get some water on these today. And there's some bok choy over there going to seed, which is fine with me because I have been saving the seed and selling them. They germinate very readily, and the bok choy is really good in soup. You can use it in ramen. You can eat it raw, it tastes just fine. But yeah, this is how things are looking. So yeah, that was the full garden tour for December of 2021. Everything that's planted is doing pretty well overall and hasn't been too affected by the cooler temperatures. I'm looking forward to going into January and February and just getting a good grasp on what I'll be able to grow in future years through the winter. This is my second winter growing. Last winter I was able to grow the butter crunch lettuce through the winter. I was able to grow mustard greens through the winter. Mustard greens actually don't sell very well for me at the farmer's market, so I decided not to grow them this year. What I was doing last year is putting the mustard greens in the salad mix, and I got good feedback on the salad mix, but nobody was interested in buying the mustard greens outside of the salad mix. And once it got warm, the mustard greens got so spicy that even my family wasn't interested in them. So I'm just going to forego the mustard greens this year, but continue to grow lettuce and do the butter crunch and romaine lettuce mix, and then the oak leaf lettuce mix, and then the oak leaf mix in as well. I also added beet greens to my salad mix last year. I'm debating on whether or not I want to do that come spring. Just depending on what the demand is for a salad. So, but I know for sure I can grow the butter crunch lettuce through the winter. So, and now I know that broccoli and snapdragons will do good as well. And then the peas, I started some snow peas inside. I think next year one thing I want to do is start snow peas significantly sooner and see if I can grow snow peas through the winter, because these sweet peas seem to be enjoying the cool weather, although they may be growing a little bit on the slower side. I think it would, if I can get the snow peas in sooner next year, then I can get actual pea pods right at the beginning of spring, which I think would help with spring sales when other things are taking a little bit longer to grow. So these are just notes to myself for the coming year. Thank you for sticking around. I am going to put a montage of the gardens right here. changed over the past year. I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing my gardening journey over the past year. I look forward to chronicling more of how things change over the coming year in 2022. We definitely have a lot more projects that we want to work on. If you don't know, we also plan on converting our front yard into a garden, so that'll definitely be a great undertaking, but we're looking forward to it. And I know in several videos ago I talked about backing off the amount of work I was doing in the garden and kind of slowing down a little bit in the last couple of months. My husband has decided to jump into the gardening journey with me as well and go full force, so now there'll be two of us working, and instead of backing off, we'll be putting our pedal to the metal. So this coming year we'll have a lot in store, and I look forward to showing you guys, and thank you so much for continuing to follow along on this journey as we learn about self-sustainability, creating a sustainable income for our family, and also having a creative outlet. So thank you for continuing to follow along on the journey, and until next time, keep learning and keep growing.